here is called Pyramid Cove, and it's down at that south end of the island. And so my boat came up here and in through here. And it looked like, it was getting kind of late, so it looked like a good place to anchor up and stay the night and some protection there. Except there were these signs, you probably can't see it, but right up in here, you can see there's a boat here, and there's a little buoy there. And that's right around where I was anchoring up. And on that little buoy, there's a sign that says, "Danger, Target Practice Area." Wow. Well, for some reason, I just didn't believe that sign. And that's just how it was. I don't believe anything. I guess I thought maybe they just wouldn't be using it that day or something, or whatever. Well, now you can see this section of the island where I was now, they've got this word here, Shoba, and there's some markings down there. Shoba stands for Shore Bombardment Area. And there's a little closer shot, and remember my boat was anchored in right here. You can see this is the marked out area, the Shore Bombardment Area. Well, you can imagine what woke me up early the next morning. Whoops, I'm missing a slide there. There it is. Those guys on the Navy, they're on a schedule, and they just don't mess around. They apparently don't enable idiotic behavior either, because at about 6 a.m., shells started hitting the water around my boat. I could hear my radio going off. It was set to the emergency channel, and they were saying, the Navy was on my radio saying, "Get your boat out of there, get your boat out of there." So I ran up to the front of the boat and started pulling the anchor up, and shells were hitting, from me to the back of the chapel, away from my boat and all around, from a ship that I could see about 10 miles out there. And so I just had to pull up my anchor as fast as I could and haul butt out of there. And it was just, the point is that I just did not believe that sign. And it's the same way I didn't believe anything like the Bible or church or any about how I've been taught to live. I had to try it all my way first, and eventually found out that it just didn't work, just like I found out that sleeping in that cove was not a good plan. Fortunately, I managed to make it back before I was eating pig food. Okay, here's what I call my graph of spiritual growth. I'm a scientific kind of guy. I like to use gadgets and technology, computers and and electronics. And so I also love graphs. Now, this is not supposed to be an accurate chart. This is not a scientific chart. It's just sort of a representation of an idea of mine. Now, this didn't come from seminary or anything like this. This is something I came up with myself. But you can see basically on this side of the graph, if you're growing spiritually, you're growing towards selflessness. In a nutshell, that's your spirituality as you care more and more about others and God and less about yourself. And then it's the opposite down here on this end of the graph is selfishness. And so you can see down this end, at the very end, is going to be 100% good, 100% with God is what I have there. And this is heaven and Jesus way down on this end. Down back on this end is the anti-spirituality end, 100% outside of God. And down here would be Satan and hell. And so here's the midpoint, 0. Maybe somebody, now we're all fit on this graph somewhere. And we're all moving on the graph. No one's ever just sitting on one point on the graph. You're going one way or you're going the other way. And so, spiritual growth is like that. I had earlier in the year, I went to Indonesia and I traveled to Colorado and all this, and I was really moving this way, But then maybe in the fall, I started slacking back a little bit. I wasn't praying as much or doing as much. I maybe started moving back this way a little bit. And that's really just how it is. Now, you can see here I've got some markings here. Now I like to think I'm over here on this side of the graph now. But just because I'm standing up, don't think just because I'm the one standing up here talking today that I've got it all together. I don't. I may be down here somewhere still. I'm still doing things that I know I shouldn't do. I still don't do things that I know I should do. And so, but I like to think that I'm moving in this direction now. Okay? Now these guys here, I got them marked as HDDs. That's what I call high definition disciples. is what I call them, high definition disciples. So these are people like Pastor Bowen and others, there's many of you in this room, that have already committed yourself 100% to Jesus, 100% to your spirituality, the very first thing in your life. And you can see even those people don't really make it to the top, but they're way up here and they're moving in that direction. They're moving good in that direction. Here's where I was, down here, drunk, and in AA they call it a self-centered tornado. A self-centered, you've probably known someone like that. People that just come into lives and relationships and just leave a wake of destruction behind them, and they don't care. And so I was like that. I'm trying to remember, okay, here's one of the things I did back when I was drinking. I used to sing this Frank Zappa song. I like to sing this Frank Zappa song when I was drunk. It's a song it's about 15 minutes long, you know, I knew all the words to it. It's a crazy song about Nanook of the North with a bunch of crazy lyrics. This is the last song you want to hear some drunken guy singing, right? And so, I mean, nobody wanted to hear me singing the song. Here's a little bit of it. Watch out where the huskies go, and don't you eat that yellow snow. Watch out where the huskies go, and don't you eat that yellow snow. And so, I didn't care if you didn't like it. I only cared about myself. So that's where I was. And so the question becomes, don't eat that yellow snow. That's another lesson you'll have learned today. The lesson, so the question becomes, how do you take somebody that's at this point in their spirituality, headed the wrong direction, and turn them back, going up the scale the other way?
Yes.
And, you know, no one really knows. I mean, I can take absolutely, I mean, I made the turn. Why did I make the turn and other people didn't? I don't know. It's grace is the only thing I can think. It's grace. I can take absolutely no credit for that. I don't know what happened. And it's you know, but this is what we want to see, is these people making the turn. And now, the guys at Alcoholics Anonymous that created that program, Bill and Dr. Bob and others, those guys must have been geniuses and inspired by the Spirit.
That's right.
Because they had came up with a system. It's kind of like what I call it is a sort of spiritual kindergarten that works, and it has saved millions of souls. So let's take a look at it. Here's a graphic of what used to be the AA logo. Now, in recent years, they tried to sue somebody for using the logo on t-shirts and things like that. And when they did that, they discovered that this design has been used for centuries by many, many organizations, including some temperance societies. So they actually decided to drop it altogether. That's no longer the AA logo. But I'm going to use it here because it illustrates the three basic main points of the spiritual program, again, set out by Jesus and Paul and James, and later picked up by AA. And I've changed it up a little bit. This has been for the institution of AA, so I switched it up a little bit. Instead of recovery, I have growth, because many of you probably aren't alcoholics, although we are all recovering from sin.
That's right.
Amen.
Unity, I put in instead, it's fellowship. Fellowship. Of course, here, Christ fellowship.